Hi, this is the second in my sequence of short videos where I explain what is generative AI models such as ChatGPT or Gemini in very simple, intuitive ways. In the part one video, I introduced to you basically what is Gemini and what is the generative AI models, and we kind of overviewed the concept and the landscape in general. In this video, I am going to actually explain to you how the model that powers ChatGPT or Gemini actually works. This is a complex area, but possibly it's made more complex by the way it's explained in a super technical way in most of the internet. I have really gone down to the basics and tried to explain it in real world terms using the simplest possible examples and terminology. If you want to see the part one video, the link is in the comments. Hi, I'm Shelly, a researcher and professor in the area of artificial intelligence from the management perspective. This is my YouTube channel, AI Economics, where I talk about the latest developments in AI and decode what they mean for business. If you're interested in this area, please do subscribe to my channel, AI Economics. Also, please like this video as it helps with the algorithm and hit the bell icon for updates on new videos as I release them. So how does it work intuitively? Let's take a slightly different example from the usual text-to-image generation examples. We'll look at a music recommendation app with a generative AI twist. Now, you all quite familiar with Spotify and the huge kind of playlist that they have, and hence a recommendation application is absolutely a critical part of the Spotify offering, so to speak, or the product of Spotify product. Now let's understand how generative AI works intuitively and how it can learn to create entirely new and original music based on the knowledge it acquires from the vast amounts of data. The traditional recommendation system, which is, by the way, something similar to what Netflix also uses and is used by many music streaming applications, recommends songs based on listening history, user demographics, etc. And essentially, based on all this kind of information, the traditional algorithm works to make predictions based on what are observed user patterns. Now, how does generative AI work? The first step in generative AI is training. The generative AI app is then trained on a massive data set of music. This data would include audio files, it would include lyrics, it would include artist information, genre classification, and even user ratings. Okay. The essentially what the AI would then do is it would analyze the data to identify patterns and relationships between different musical elements like melody, rhythm, harmony, and instrumentation. Based on this, it would then learn a kind of very gigantic musical model. It would then use this model to generate It can use this model to either recommend similar but fresh songs or to compose entirely new music. If it recommends similar but fresh songs, when a user listens to a specific song, the AI can recommend other songs by the same artist or similar artists, but with a slight twist. It might suggest tracks with a slightly different tempo, for example, or instrumentation, but keeping the core style and offering of the original artists. This would offer a new listening experience, for example. It can also compose entirely new music. Given a user's preference, example, favorite genre or mood, the AI can generate entirely new songs that capture the essence of these preferences while incorporating its understanding of music patterns and creativity. So, I mean, you can see that the kind of the kind of output that the AI can generate is absolutely miraculous, nothing short of miraculous. It is trained on a very large and diverse data set. So this is absolutely critical and is a critical requirement for generative AI. The richer the musical patterns that it's exposed to, the more it can learn. And the other thing which would make a difference is to incorporate a feedback or user feedback loop, so that the more its recommendations are rated by users, the more it can learn and improve further and improve its offerings. Of course, one ethical consideration which a lot of these generative AIs are now putting in is to ensure that it does not simply copy the patterns, but it actually generates new and innovative compositions. So this is how it works intuitively, and I'm giving this as an example of a slightly management oriented business case kind of application. By the way, the image on the right side is again generated by DALL-E, and as you can see, just by using simple generative AI, you can really take your presentations to the next level. Believe me, my presentations were just simple, text-based, with maybe a few boxes put in or something. The incorporation of the images by DALL-E, for example, this one is visualizing generative AI learning music as the prompt. Is just, I really feel it makes it so much more interesting and engaging. Now let's try and understand, now that we've understood how the model works intuitively, let's just try and understand a little bit about how the actual workflow of the model works. All right, so this slide essentially encapsulates in a very simplified fashion what the workflow of the model is. So the first step that we have is that we have a vast corpus of data. This data can be text, images, numbers, audio, or code. This data is then processed. This is known as data pre-processing, and it is basically processed to become in a what is called described as a machine readable form, which is basically what I have visualized over here. Essentially, the text is broken down into words, and these words are then translated into mathematical vectors. I know it sounds complicated, and it is a slightly advanced topic, but just so you know, I will be doing a video on it also. Images, for example, are broken down into their component pixels, and similarly for numbers and videos. All right, now once we have this vast corpus of database, and it can be a huge database. For example, as I mentioned, ChatGPT has been trained on upwards of 300 billion words. All right, once we have that ready, this data is then pushed to a deep learning model called the transformer model. The transformer is a specific type of deep learning model which is used to learn the natural language processing language models. Now, what is a natural language processing language model? The objective of the language model is essentially to learn the sequences and patterns which exist in the text. Very similar to where in the earlier example, the generative model was learning the patterns of music. Here it learns the patterns in usage of text, so that when it sees a group of words, it is able to predict what is the next word. Let's take a very simple example. For example, let's take a sentence such as the cat sat on the ant. The model has to predict the next word. Now, given that it will have seen many times in its text corpus that the mat is a possible option, it may actually predict mat as the next word. It will typically predict the word which the model identifies as having the highest probability, which is based on the patterns in the kind of vast amount of text data that it has seen. Of course, it's a probabilistic estimate, so it need not be mat. It could also be the fact that the cat can sit on a sofa, or it can sit on a wall, or even on a tree. Now, would it always predict the cat sat on the mat? Not necessarily. This is what makes the model a lot more intelligent. For example, if the preceding sentence was the cat was sitting, there was a wall, and there, you were chasing the cat, then the model might actually predict that the cat is sitting on the wall, for example. So the model takes into account the previous sequence of words which come in. Anyway, this is a complex process. I'm sorry, no two ways about it. Once this model, a very gigantic model, has been trained, we can then move on to the next step, which is we have a fully trained model. It will have approximately 175 billion parameters which are there. So this is a really huge model. All right, this is your fully trained model. Once you have your fully trained model, then you can actually query in a prompt. And once you query in the prompt, the model will understand your query and output a relevant text, or it can come up with an image as I've been describing to you, or it can come up with code. There are many things that the model can do. So this is in a nutshell how the model works. I hope you found this video engaging. In this video, I had basically tried to explain the internal mechanism by which the model works. I've broken it up into small bite-sized pieces because otherwise it becomes too long and no one can really sustain attention for such a long period. Stay tuned for part 3, which talks about on the type of data that the model is trained on. Please hit the like button for this video, as it helps with the algorithm, and also please subscribe to my channel AI Economics and hit the bell icon to be notified about new videos.